Today, I'm going to explain how you can legally pay zero taxes on income produced in Paraguay. After shaking up the expat and digital nomad ecosystem in Paraguay, when I explained that the simple LLC is completely useless from a tax perspective if you live in Paraguay anyways, today Uncle Ale is bringing you the solution to the problem.
You, sir, are an imposter, because Paraguay has a territorial tax system. That means that the money produced in Paraguay is actually taxed.
Just let me explain. What he says is true, more or less. We've already said once that there are some types of income, like capital gains and dividends of foreign origin, that are not taxed in Paraguay, even if the person receiving them is physically residing here. But today, I want to explain how you can also reduce to zero your taxation on work income and business income produced in Paraguay in a completely legitimate and transparent way. Once you've opened your RUC, as you'll know if you have already watched the other videos on this topic, you're effectively considered a self-employed worker in Paraguay. It's exactly if you had your own personal company and it's not a separate legal entity from you. It is you. You are the company. And all entities with a RUC, whether companies or self-employed workers, are taxed on their net profit. That is, the difference between revenue and expenses. The same applies to VAT, which is value-added tax, where at the end of the month, you'll simply pay the difference between VAT on sales and VAT on purchases. Note, of course, the situation is different for employees who don't have a RUC and are subject to income tax without deductions associated with the RUC. But if you have a RUC, then your taxation depends on the difference between costs and revenue. Revenue is represented by all the invoices issued by your RUC and any declared capital gains, which must be recorded one by one in the Maranga 2 system. Costs are equally represented by all the invoices you receive. You've surely experienced it. Every time you go to buy something in Paraguay, they ask the same thing. ¿Quere factura? They're simply asking if you want an invoice in your name with your RUC, so you can record it as a deductible cost on your next tax return. Unlike in other countries, where you can only deduct business-related expenses under tons of constraints, restrictions, and complicated percentages, and I'm sure that the Europeans watching this know exactly what I'm talking about, in Paraguay you can deduct everything. Everything! Do you want a coffee? You can deduct it. Do you want some cookies? They're tax deductible. Do you want a t-shirt? It's tax deductible. You deduct everything and you deduct it at 100%, except for two things: supermarket groceries and vehicles. These can be fully deducted from income tax, but only 30% of the VAT can be recovered. Let's suppose that John has $3,000 in monthly revenue coming from his work activity, which he carries out through an LLC in the United States. In John's case, who lives permanently in Paraguay and physically performs his work from here, his income is considered to be produced in Paraguay and he'll have to issue an invoice from his RUC to the LLC every month to formalize in Paraguay the income produced by his work. In this case, John is only using the LLC because it provides practical banking benefits and reduced accounting obligations compared to a Paraguayan company, and because when John is not in Paraguay, the work he does won't be taxed in Paraguay, as it's foreign income. Alright, so John issues an invoice of $3,000 to his LLC representing the total revenue for that month. John has also been very careful to ask for an invoice every time he could, so he deducted all of his living expenses and ended up collecting $2,000 worth of invoices to his name.
Do you want Factura?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, there you go, sir.
Thank you so much.
This means that the difference between his revenue and costs is $1,000 for the current month, which results in a tax bill of $100. If John forgets to ask for invoices for the goods and services he buys in Paraguay, then at the end of the month he'll be taxed on the full $3,000 and pay $300 in taxes.
No!
The difference is that in one case he paid 10% tax and in the other he paid 3.3%. So, collecting invoices is the absolute best way to reduce your tax burden in Paraguay. Today, this process is still a bit slow because some vendors give you electronic invoices while others give you paper ones. In the case of a paper invoice, you'll need to take a photo and upload it manually to Maranga 2 or send the photo to your accountant. Thankfully, starting from 2026, all invoices in Paraguay will be digital, something we have already implemented for over 3 years to all our accounting clients. This will make the process of deducting costs much more efficient, as electronic invoices are automatically linked to your Maranga 2 account without you doing anything. Great, but I promised you 0% taxes, and so far we've only talked about reducing taxes. Everyone knows that the cost of living in Paraguay is quite low, so at some point your living costs aren't going to help much in reducing your tax burden. Let's say that John earns $40,000 a month instead of $3,000. In theory, he could buy 11,000 cappuccinos from Juan Valdez and ask for an invoice every time to bring his net income to zero and pay no tax on the income produced in Paraguay. With this one, it should be 9,998 to go this month. It's doable. But realistically, there's a limit to how much someone can spend in a month. And even with an extremely expensive lifestyle, it's hard to believe someone could legitimately spend more than $10,000 a month to live in Asunción, even as a king. And for the vast majority of foreigners here, monthly expenses don't even reach $2,500 a month, even when living in full comfort. Here's where the magic of real estate comes in and how investing in property is the best possible way to bring your taxable income to zero while getting richer along the way. Hey, in the meantime, are you looking for a trusted partner to handle your residency, accounting, and banking strategy in Paraguay? Our company has helped hundreds of foreigners with these, and we are proud to say that we have never failed a single case. With our dedicated platform, all-inclusive packages, and exclusive clients community, we're here to help you explore all the benefits of residency in Paraguay. Check the video description to find the contact details. My clients, friends, and people who know me know that I never ask for an invoice when the amount is under $100, because honestly, this strategy is way more effective for reducing costs and save me the trouble of collecting paper slips, wasting time at the counter while the vendor prepares an invoice, and sending all these photos to my accountant. If you've seen this video, then you probably know that I am investing in real estate here and I'm doing it in a very specific way. I'm buying plots of land and getting the great Diego to build houses just like the one behind me so that I can sell them, basically flipping them for a profit. And that brought me to liquidate pretty much all my stock and crypto portfolio, not just because the profits are better, but because I can also get huge tax deductions. There are two parts to a project like this. The first one is to buy the land, which actually is a transaction that doesn't generate any invoice that I can deduct from my taxes. The second part is the construction, and this is where the magic happens. Because Marcao Investments, Diego's company, has to give me an invoice for every single cent I pay him for the construction. Thanks, Diego. And this invoice is 100% deductible from both personal income tax and VAT. That means that in the case of this specific property, where I've invested $25,000 in land and $39,000 in the construction, all those $39,000 are gonna be deducted from this year's tax return. Which actually means that I don't need this big bag of Juan Valdez receipts anymore. Now, of course, when I sell the house, I have to pay taxes on the sale. That's obvious, folks. But that tax, 2.4% of the sale price, is paid out of the profits from the same deal. In the same example, I pay $1,872 in tax on a $78,000 sale, which is the market price for the property. After taxes and notary fees, I walk away with 11K in profit while enjoying 39K in deductible invoices. If you aim to maximize tax efficiency, the best thing is to maximize construction costs and minimize land costs. For example, in a duplex built on the same land, we could have spent $60,000 on construction for 2 floors instead of 1, while still investing only 25K on the land. But I admit, I always prefer to optimize for profit rather than tax efficiency, also because you can just do more deals to keep lowering your tax burden. The tax I pay on the sale of the property is final. Once it's paid, that's it. Nothing else to pay. This VAT and income I deduct effectively get transferred to Diego's company, since he's the one issuing the invoices. But he's the builder, this is the job, so he has no choice but to accept it. He, in turn, will deduct from his taxes the cost of workers, architects, cement, and so on. So let me be clear, if I were to buy a pre-built property or a property under construction like the ones you see behind me, all the tax advantages would disappear. And that is because if I went to one of the many developers in Asunción who offer properties off-plan, they would offer me an investment contract, which is not a construction contract. That one doesn't provide the invoices and therefore the tax credit. They do it in part because they want to improve their tax situation and in part to shelter themselves against any possible issues that the project may run into. People like to buy this kind of stuff because it looks great on Instagram, it looks shiny. When you go on a date, you can say, hey baby, you know, I bought this property off plan, but the math is simply not there. It's not there when it comes to the tax credit, and especially it's not there when you look at the return. So if you do the math, instead of just listening to any kind of OnlyFans real estate agent like the ones you generally see here in Paraguay, you will actually understand that a single family house in Luque makes just way more sense. There are other asset classes I could invest in while keeping my tax advantage, specifically two: luxury watches and physical gold. Both are considered safe haven assets that can appreciate over time, especially in times of uncertainty, with the added benefit of being outside the banking system and relatively easy to transport, especially watches, should I want to sell them outside of Paraguay. However, compared to the returns you can get from smart real estate investing today in Paraguay, there's no real competition. Several Paraguayan families also collect classic cars, which is another way of buying things that may appreciate over time and which can also be tax deductible. There's another reason why real estate is better, at least from a tax perspective, than things like gold coins or watches. When I receive construction services, Diego must send me invoices with a 10% VAT applied. That's unavoidable. VAT on construction services is 10%. But when I sell the property, since I'm a resident of Paraguay, I don't need to charge VAT at all, because the sale of property by a Paraguayan resident or citizen is not subject to VAT. On the other hand, if you sell gold coins or watches, in theory at a later date, you should apply 10% VAT on the sale. That means that you won't actually pay that upfront, but you'll pay the same later. Whereas with real estate, there's a discrepancy between the taxes on construction services and those on sale. I'm buying a service and selling a real estate product. In the other case, you're buying and selling the same thing, so the tax you deduct up front will be charged back later, and if you sell for more at a later date, then also the tax will grow bigger. So in just 5 short months, you can go from this to this to this. ¿Cuánto va a tardar completar eso?
Un mes.
In only 3 short months, and there should be just 1 month left before we complete the final transaction of the Luque investment project that I presented you in the first video. So subscribe to the channel, because as soon as we get the sale done, I will make a new video just talking about how much profit I made on the operation. In the meantime, that's all from Asunción for today, actually from Luque. I'll see you in Paraguay. In Paraguay. Yeah, it's too big and now it's stuck. No. Quale? Cos'è il problema? E allora?
I think
Just enjoy. Okay, cleanup crew to aisle 3.